Hey Rick, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Keith. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. Just happy to see you. I mean, every time I see, your setting behind you, I think about travel and like how wonderful it is and how you've encouraged me to do that for a long time. And I've really taken you up on it. And it's great. I know you have a trip planned or a couple of trips, so I'm excited for you.
Oh, thank you, Keith. It's a wonderful thing to be able to travel.
Yeah, and when you take your upcoming trip, will you journal? Because I love reading your journals.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is put my old podcast back up, my old blog back up.
Yeah.
So I have chapters like where I'm at, and I can just do chapters. I'm not really crazy about using social media. I know it's the right thing to do for a lot of people, but for me, it just feels awkward and it feels more like a treadmill that I have to keep staying on and keep feeding, which gets in the way of the experience. So what I like to do is I like to do what I do my thing, and then if I think something interesting's happened, and I've got a few photos, post the photos, and maybe do a paragraph or two on what happened that day, and let it go. Otherwise, you're just, you're constantly feeding and feeding and feeding. You don't even travel. You're just, you're sort of
Yeah.
like making a
Yeah.
movie about your life, and nobody gives a damn anyway. And you shouldn't either. That's
Exactly. It's awesome, but we love reading about, your travels, and you're such a talented writer. So I thought we'd do a
Thank you.
podcast. You're welcome. I thought we'd do a podcast, and this one is called There's Nothing You Can Do to Change Your Past or the Past. And so this is one that I was thinking about a long time ago, to where how I was like so deeply rooted in my past. And I hear other people talk about it too, when they talk about, when they were 5 years old, something that happened, or when they got a divorce and now they're 40 years old and they're still talking about the divorce their parents had when they were 12. And you just continue to live that way, unaware that you can't do anything to change it. The only thing you can do is continue to be bothered by it in the present moment, which is literally a choice. But if you're not aware or working on yourself, you are on you don't know that you are making this choice to be trapped by the limitations of that past. And
Well
so,
said. Well said. That's exactly right. My experience. That's exactly right.
oh, thank you, Rick. And so what I made a choice about was I'm not doing that now, like at all. And all the things that have happened in my life, the key is they've happened, like they're not happening now. And so it's so easy to let the limitations that come with that, let them go. I mean, completely let them go. I mean, obviously, things that happen, you can learn from them. You know, my learning is, will it help me in the present moment to be loving, to live with an open heart, to be kind, to serve the moment that's in front of me to the best of my ability? And so I've gotten to the point to where if it's not happening right now, I don't bother me with it. To your point about traveling, and this has just made such an amazing and profound difference in my life to do that. Recent podcasts I've shared examples about the way I grew up and how I was trapped in, you know, the the suffering from that period in my life. But that was, 30 years ago. So that's over. I shouldn't be trapped in it now unless I'm choosing to. And I think about like what happened with ToBeRe 8.5 years ago. Like when I look back on that, what I celebrate is I'm just grateful that I was able how I handled that. I didn't wish anyone ill will. I was grateful for all the contributions that people made up until that point, and the people that did, who I've crossed paths with, like we've reconnected, and it's not been a problem because I wasn't trapped in my past.
Mhm.
And it's just it's beautiful to live that way. It just really is beautiful to live that way. And I think when at the workplace that I am now at Mayo Clinic, I think I told a story about how one of the managers, who is a peer, yelled at me and just really unloaded on me. And I was able to understand, like, it wasn't me they were unloading on. Like I was just in front of them. But this is a combination of all the stuff that has happened to them up until that point, and I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and they unloaded. but I was able to let all that go. And when I told that story about people like, well, didn't you take action? Didn't you go to HR with this person? I'm like, but it's not happening in this moment right here, right now, to me right now. Well, you have a responsibility to do it. I was like, well, if it happens again, I'll deal with it again. But right now it's not happening and I'm able to just move on. And I often think of my life as when I was born, I was given this jar of coins. And every time I take a coin out, that's a day that's passed.
Hmm.
Rich, I don't have a lot of coins left. I don't. I know I don't. Like I don't have as many as I started with. That's what I'm clear on. And I may have less than what I actually think I have. So why do I want to waste it on this trivial stuff? I don't want to waste it on being bothered by these little things. So I continue to work on myself all the time so that I just really am clear and remain clear that what's happened in the past is the past. And I do not want to be trapped in it. I do not want to be trapped in what my mind says about it or the emotions that come from this narrative that my mind has woven. I just want to be free, Rick, like all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be trapped by those limitations. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's a great line of thinking. I think we need to tell a little bit about what you've done to make that transition. For example, it's people viewing may say, well, it's easy for you, but I really had a terrible childhood, not everybody thinks they've had the worst go of it, So I can't let it go. I just can't, they were mean to me or they did this and committed crimes or stole my money or shot my dog or whatever the trauma is. I think we have to give some folks some tips on maybe how to get past it. And I guess the first thing I would suggest would be, first of all, if it's a serious trauma, you need professional help. You need a chance to do some therapy with a professional who can help you can deal with this and consider some options. But if it's something that's like we all suffer from, that's not really traumatic, it's just this bad things that happened and it made me a certain way. I think we have to decide, do you want to continue to do that? And maybe the way to get out of it, for me always was writing. So if you can journal and just start writing about things that happened that you want to let go of. And then I think the third thing would be to try to create a monitoring system, like an automatic pilot within your head or your heart, or your soul, that says, wait, I don't want to be that guy that's reacting this way because he had a past that did this. That monitoring system is really important. So you can still act all your silly ways, but you're aware that you're doing it.
Right.
Before you get into that way of thinking, you do all of this, but you don't know you're doing it. You're just, this is how I am. This is how I am. Okay, was that the way you want to be? Is that the change that you want to see in the world? And if it's not, what the hell are you doing? So I guess the journaling, the professional help, and the idea that you create this ability to see when you're reacting in a way that's consistent with the past that you do not want to be anymore. It doesn't serve you any longer. Last point, very difficult for all of us to keep in mind, but everything that we do is based on a narrative about ourselves and the world. Okay, this is extreme, but I think it's accurate. There is no meaning in the world. There is none. The only thing that gives anything any meaning is the human mind, is the human brain. You're talking about a coyote eating a rabbit without anesthetic. That's in the world. Now, the meaning you give that is, oh, the poor rabbit, or well, a predator should be doing it. Whatever your judgment is about it in your head. So my point is that if that's true, then all the meaning that you can give to anything in your life, anything, whether it's good or bad, however you characterize good or bad, which may not be too different from one another, those things are judgments that you and other humans have made. So I guess my point is that we have to keep in mind that our past is a judgment. Our past is a narrative. Our past is something that gives us meaning to our narrative, but you don't have to believe it.
Right. Rick, that's so beautiful. You don't have to be trapped in it. I'll be really quick. You know, we're running out of time here. So I'll try to do this in a minute or less. When you and I both went to Landmark and we were in the advanced course, they have this exercise because people come there, literally everyone shows up there, they're trapped in their narrative, just like this reality that's real for them, and they're literally trapped in it. And you're like, but mine is true. Yeah, I know. It's true. Yeah, we got it. So they have this exercise where you take whatever it is that you think has defined your life, like the thing that is whatever it is that has caused you pain, suffering, whatever. For me, it was my childhood, growing up with a father who suffered from alcoholism. There was verbal and physical abuse in the home. Watched my mom, you know, domestic violence at the hands of my stepfather. All of that, growing up in all of that, right? So you take that and you just start, or you get a partner and they have you journal it. You write it all down, like all of it, and then you read it and you keep reading it, and the other person is over there listening, and you read it and read it and read it until it no longer has that meaning for you. And so your partner is over there like, oh, brother, do I have to hear this again? Like, Jesus.
Get off it. Get off.
I'm listening to this person talking about she had a divorce and how he ruined my life. And I'm just sitting there like, yo, like I won't get these minutes back. What are we doing here? So when I think about my little petty story about what's happening at work or whatever, I'm like, it's not that it is like trivial and it doesn't matter, but yeah, it's trivial and it really doesn't matter in this moment. Yeah. It really doesn't. The biggest thing is it's not useful. It's not useful if you really want to be happy, if you really want to live in a loving way, if you're trapped in your past, even if the past is good, whatever good is, even if it's that, if you are still like identified with that, it's not you. You are the consciousness that was able to be aware of this lived experience, but it's not you. I mean, and that's the key. Like there's a separation between it. They call it my life, possessive, my. There is there's the subject and the object. You're the I, the life is the object. You're not the same thing. And so once you can get that, it's not painful when you go through a divorce. I mean, you notice the heart hurting, you notice all those things, but for the conscious self, you're just observing this is another experience that you have that's part of the human condition, you know, that you made a choice with. And you lose your job and your titles and all these other stuff. You're not the titles, you're not the job. But the people who struggle the most is they've been so deeply identified with it that they think it's them. It's not them. And that's why what happened with ToBeRe, people are like, oh my God, Keith, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to be fine. Like ToBeRe is not who I am. Like ToBeRe was an opportunity to grow, but there'd be other opportunities to grow. You know, so when ToBeRe was almost, you know, potentially coming to an end, I told everybody, I was like, I don't know if this is our last day or not, but I'll tell you what, we had a good run. We had a good run. Yeah. And the past is the past, man. Let me be in this present moment. So, Rick, closing thoughts. We got about 1 minute.
Oh, gosh, Keith, there's so much. That's a wonderful story. I love how you relate to the ToBeRe experience. Last point is that I don't mean to be too harsh here. What I'm trying to get across is that even though we're all trapped in a narrative and trapped in to some extent in our past, just being aware of that will put you in a different direction. Absolutely. And if that's not where you want to be in the future, where you've been in the past, you have the right to change it. You have the absolute ability to change it. You have the power to change it. You know, things, whether they're in the past or happen today, only have the meaning you give them, right? Only the meaning that you give them. Again, it's the human mind, it's the brain that gives things meaning. The rest of it is all neutral. It just happens. It just unfolds. So narratives are under your control. So pick what you want.
Great. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. I love you.
I love you, Keith. We'll see you next time.
I'll see you next time.